Okay, so hello everyone. Hopefully the audio works on this time around. As I was mentioning before, the what we're trying to do in this stream is uh, continuing work that we've previously started on animations. So okay, thank you, Oscar, for letting me know. I was gonna just keep on talking without actually, anybody hearing anything. Okay, so as I was saying, what um, we've done previously is we've physicalized, we have the physicalized player, and then, so trying to go under something, we go into crouch mode, and we change the physicalization properties for the player. But what if you were to release the crouch key? In my case, it's C. Well, this would happen, right? The player would stand, and you'd look like you'd go through the floor with your feet, at least in this case. So, yeah, once you go from under the thing you're crouching, um, things kind of turn out fine. I think the problem with this being a cylinder is I think it might be something engine side. I was not able to figure out why that is, but um, at least it works. So. So like I said, you crouch, you go into the physicalization for the crouch, and you can go into things. But like I said, once you remove the C key, we want to make sure that you're still in crouch if you're under something and you can't stand. Um, so the little code I'm just going to quickly show you. So if you're watching the video, you can just pause real quick to look at what I currently have for physicalization. As far as the crouching and the standing. So here it is. This is what I have for crouching. And of course, you can tweak some of these values to your liking. Um, this is what I found was pretty useful for me. So this is the crouch, and this is the standing. So if you'd like to pause the video when you watch this, to grab this code. Okay, so moving on. As I was mentioning in my previous failed attempt at starting the stream, what we're going to do is we're going to simplify our um, the way we track the state the player is in, and that's going to come in handy when we're actually going to crouch under something and we want to stay into that state. So currently that's also going to help with this little this is kind of also state type thing, the way I see it at least, where we set the state to crouch or crouch, the regular crouch walk or the walk based on some of these properties, if it's on ground, if it's crouching, or if it's not crouching. So hopefully these states are going to help with that as well, and they did for my my test case. And since I'm doing this, for the first time, I didn't get a lot of time to prep for it. I'm going to use, I'm going to have my original one on a separate screen. And if I stumble along the way, I'm going to use that as a sort of a cheat sheet, so to speak. Okay, so let's get right into it. The way this is going to have to work is, in order for us to know that we're under something, we're going to have to shoot a ray. At least that's the way I did it. So we're going to have to shoot a ray going up. So kind of, if you picture your head, it's going to be a ray shooting from your head going up and measuring the distance from your head along with your state to what you're hitting. So that's basically the gist of it. And if that distance is of a certain dimension, of a certain size, then we know we can stand. So we'll set the state to standing if you release the C key. So let's first we'll set the states that the the crouching, the moving while crouching, the standing, moving while standing. Okay, so let's just jump into it and hope this works out. All right. So we're going to create an enum here, and this is going to be e player state. I think that's pretty explanatory. Okay, so we're going to set a couple of, or more than, there's going to be a few of these. So first of all, we're going to do, I learned this from another member of the community as far as the naming convention, which I really like it. So there's going to be an enum player state underscore, and this is going to be, we're going to start with none, and then we're going to end with last. So just so we keep track of it. All right, so we're going to have player state standing. Then we'll have another one called moving crouching, or we can do, let's write it down as moving. We'll just try to keep it in order. So it's going to be e player state, underscore, and this is going to be moving standing. You can name this moving while standing. I thought it was a little long, so I'm just going to do moving standing. Then we're going to have a moving crouching, or crouching, sorry. And then another one, which is moving crouching. Or maybe it might be easier to just flip those around a little bit. So standing moving and crouching moving. I think moving, crouching, moving, standing sounded a little weird. So crouching, moving. And let's add a last one. We're not going to go into this today, but this is going to be for jumping. So jumping. All right, so there's our states. So I've made these in player because I thought it might be easier to manage that way, or we keep them in here. So now that we have these all set, the way we look for those, these are going to go into player input. So because in there is where we're actually going to be looking for what the player is doing, right? So let's go to player input, and we're going to do a switch, and this is going to go into our update function. So let's see, where do we want to place this? Let's place it, I guess we can place it right here after the look orientation. And maybe just, let's do it all the way at the bottom. I think that might be a little better. So this is going to be input, or just the states, player states. So let's, what I want to do is I also want to set up a persistent debug, just because I want to track and see if we're in the proper state. You know, it might be a little easier to debug. I was playing around with crylog, but it did feel like you know, the little console was just overflowing with things, so it wasn't. I wasn't doing a really good job at keeping track of that way. So let's create it here, and so I'm just going to start with, this is persistent debug, and you know, the way to autofill it, it's control space if the IntelliSense from Visual Studio, you know, works properly. Okay, so this is going to be, we're going to create a pointer, and so it's going to be p persistent debug. And so let's get this to the global environment. I'm having a hard time spelling these. So this is going to be p game framework, and then it's going to be get persistent debug. Okay, so we got to guess to start this up. I'm not entirely sure how to better explain this, but we got to do an arrow begin, and we're going to call this um, interaction vector. Okay, and we've got to pass in a boolean, and I guess false seems to be working for me. Okay, so now we can start and go into our switch. So switch, and in order to access our enum or our states from the player, we're going to access it through the MP player. That's right there, and the arrow accessor, and this is going to be. And so far we have not created this variable, which is and that's why you can't find it here. So if we go back into player, we've created the enum, but once we actually create the player, we want to create a variable down here. Let's place it right below here. I guess this is a good placement for it. So it's going to be an E. Let's see, what do we call that? E player state. So player state, and this is going to be M underscore state. Alright, so now we can go back into our player input and access it. So if we go back into here, M underscore state. Okay, so now we're just going to go on a case-by-case basis. So it's going to be first case, which is E for our variable player state. So we're going to start with crouching. So it's going to be crouching, and then we're going to go into our next case. I'm just going to do a copy paste for these, and then I'm going to go in and change them up. Alright, so we have crouching, then we have crouching moving, and then we have, oops, that's a little bit too many. Oh, come on, autofill. I guess I forgot to put this in here. And then we have standing. And the last of them, this is going to be, well, not the last of them, but at least the last of them for our needs. So E, player state, standing, moving. Okay, so, and we can also add to this, even though we're not going to use it, but we'll do the last case, which is, and I already have it selected, EPS jumping, and then the default case, which is just going to have a break in it, and that's it. Okay, so we have our cases. Now let's see about just maybe typing in a little bit of for each one of these cases. We'll do some kind of a debug test, and that's just gonna help us with seeing what's happening. So let's do the crouching, and this will be so PD, and we'll just add some text, and I guess I'm just gonna have to start typing this in. There's quite a few options, so add some text, and so we have a bunch of options here. These are going to be the positioning, that's going to be the size, then we have the color, the timeout, like how much that debug text is going to be on the screen, and then what we want to say. So let's do, I'm going to do this at 10, 0F, and then maybe let's do 10, 0F. Then we want the size to be maybe 2.0F. That's just floats. And then we want the color, and the color is going to be we want to just create a color F, and in here we'll just call this, we want to create a vector 3. That's how these colors are created. And this is going to be, I want to make it, let's make it so RGB, let's make it green. So I'm going to make this a 0, 1, and a 0. These should be floats. Hopefully it will work this way. And then it's going to be the timeout, and this is going to be, let's do a 0.5 seconds. And so that's the timeout. Let's see, what else do we need? Oh, actually not. That's actually not the timer. This is the alpha. My bad. So and then this is going to be the timeout. It's pretty nice because it you know, kind of bolds it out, the current parameter you want. So the timeout, let's make this at 0.5 seconds as well. And this is going to be, our state is going to be here, crouching. Okay, so I'll just quickly copy these and add them into these guys here. Alright, so crouching, moving, crouching, or crouching, moving. Then this is going to be standing, and standing, moving. Okay, so we have the states kind of worked in here. Let me just tighten this up a little bit. Okay, so one thing that we need to know is we also rely on knowing when the crouch button is pressed. So, because we can hold it down and be in crouch mode forever, but when we release it, you know, we want to know so we can go into the right state. So currently, the way we had this set up is that we were just affecting the physicalized crouch and physicalized standing. So the way we want to go about this is actually set up a variable, like a Boolean variable, so that we know that, okay, you know, this was pressed or this was released. So let's go into player input real quick, and this is going to be something real simple. We'll just set it up down here. So this is going to be track the crouch press. So I'm going to set up a Boolean. This is going to be a public, and this is going to be let's see, what do we want to call this? M underscore crouch press, and that should be a semicolon. Okay. So going back into player input, we know it's pressed, so let's set that to true. So this is going to be M underscore crouch press equals true. And here it was released, so M underscore crouch press equals false. Okay, at this point we can actually remove these from here, and we'll move these into our state machine above. So let's just comment these out for now. So what we'll do in here is, since this got pressed, what we'll do is we'll set our player state to crouching. So M underscore player, and again we just access our M state variable, M state, oops, M underscore, forgot about the underscore, M state equals E player state, that's our enum, and set this to crouching because we pressed the crouch state, the crouch button. And once we release it, we want to stand. So this is going to be EPS standing. There it is. Okay, so now that we have that worked out as far as what when the press action happens, let's quickly go back into our state thing, and let's see, did I go past it? I went past it. There it is. Okay, so into our states, we want to see what would happen once you press the crouching or the crouch button. So for now, we don't have that ray I was mentioning earlier shooting from our head, you know, to test the distance between our head and the ceiling. So for now, we'll just make sure that our state machine actually works. So in here, what we'll have to do is set up a few some if statements. So first of all, in our if we're crouching, let's see what needs to happen. So if our crouching button is pressed, so that means what is it? M underscore crouch press equals true. Then we want to physicalize crouch, right? Because we go into the into the crouch state. So M underscore player, and actually I should have just copied my comments because I still kept them. So it's going to be physicalize crouch. Okay, so and we physicalize crouch, and we also set our player state to crouching. This is actually important because we're in a crouching state, right? So let's set the player state, and that's M underscore the player, and then arrow M underscore state equals to, again, our enum player state, and we set it to let's see, what am I missing? Am I missing anything? No, actually, this is going to be it's going to be crouching moving, because so in our crouching state or the crouching and the standing state, we just want to make sure that we actually stood up, or we crouched. And once that happens, we set the state to crouching moving because we're attempting to move in that state. Hopefully that makes sense, and hopefully I'm explaining it as good as I can. Okay, so if we're not crouching, so in else, then we want to physicalize standing, because we released a button and we're going to attempt to physicalize standing. So we're going to have we'll just be able to copy these. So physicalize, and this is going to be so let's do standing moving, because like I said, we are not in a crouch state. Okay, so that's for crouching. Let's do a quick compile just to make sure that everything is working and we're not getting any bugaboos. Alright, so let's do a quick build and see if we run into any issues. Okay, so far so good. Alright, so now that we have the crouching, let's look into, because we moved to moving, we had crouching moving and standing moving. Why do I have standing moving? I should have changed that to, no, actually that's right. I thought I had it moving standing. Okay, so we have the crouching state that we're trying to take care of here, So now let's do the crouching moving. So currently, crouching moving means that we we either have the C button pressed, or we're in a space that we can't stand. This is also a part where our ray that we shoot from our head, which sounds kind of funny, will come into play. So in the crouching moving state, what we'll be looking at is, let's see, I'm also using my cheat sheet reel here. Um, so crouching moving is going to be, I'm going to have an if, and this is m crouch press equals false, because we're not holding that anymore. And in this if statement, we're also going to have an and. The return statement of that ray shooting function is also false. So if the player, it is actually true. So if the player can stand. So what we want to see is, did we release our crouch press? And can the player stand? So if both of those are true, then we know that we'll be able to stand. And then physicalize as well. So if the player can stand, then we want to physicalize him as standing. So let's grab physicalize. And I'm sorry if it might be a little bit confusing. It was to me at first, and it probably still is. But this is the way I managed to get it working. So, being that doing it for the first time, hopefully it works for you as well. Okay, so the crouching moving, as I was saying, we want to physicalize him to standing, and we also want to set the state to standing moving. So the state, let's grab this one from here. So standing moving. All right, and so we got the crouching moving out of the way. Now let's look at standing. We're moving into standing. So standing, just like crouching, is also going to have two possibilities. So let's start off with, if our crouch press is false, and also this if statement is going to have an and. Our shooting rate tells us that the player can stand, then we'll be able to physicalize him. So just like before, we'll be able to physicalize the player to a standing mode, and we'll change its state to standing moving, because now he's going to be able to just move on a standing position and physicalized position. So, and then it's going to be, there's going to be also an else. So else, if the crouch press is true and the player can't stand, we're going to have a physicalized crouch, and it's going to be crouching moving. So we'll just copy these and put them down here. Alright, so we got the standing, and let's do standing moving. So for this one, actually it didn't seem to me that I have to do much, because this is kind of the default state where the player is in. So let's just add some breaks out of this, and let's see, where else do we need to? I believe this is in the crouching moving, and this is going to be a break as well. All right. So let's see. That hopefully should currently still provide the same functionality that we have. And since we're here, let's also add these states to our player animations. So what I'm going to do for now, I'm just going to keep this as on ground. Um, though I kind of ran into an issue with this, especially when you walk up to, say, in my case, were some trees that had some bottom physics that would lift the player box off the ground, and it would just end up messing up the animations. I'm not sure if I was doing something to cause it, but for me, it just broke the animations. So just something to keep in mind and maybe kind of watch out for. Okay, so let's look at the player animations here and set these states or use these states for this. Okay, so for our crouch idle, this is going to be moving to crouching. So I'm just going to copy this real quick because it might be a little quicker that way. So first of all, we're looking in the crouch idle tag. So this is going to be moving to crouching, and actually all going to be, so it's going to be the crouch tag, and it's going to be moving to crouching. So the way I did this is, and let's see, why is this having a little bit of a fit? Maybe I need to include my player.h. Let's see, have I not included it in here? No, I have. So MP player, and it should be this one right here. I'm not sure why it's not accessing our little state variable. Class C player has no member M state. Oh, apologies for that. Misspelling galore when it comes to copying and pasting sometimes. Crouching to moving. Alright, and then the walk, let's see, the walk is going to be moving to standing, or standing moving. So let's copy this statement here. Paste it down here. So instead of crouching moving, this is going to be standing moving. Okay, so let's compile this, and hopefully we'll get the same behavior that we currently have. But in this case, with state machine type setup, or at least something that's a little bit easier to manage. So let's open up our example level. No, that's actually not it. My bad for that. I kind of jumped at the first thing that I saw there. Alright, so let's yeah, exactly. That's what I ended up doing, Oscar. Thank you. It's like I said, the control space. It's an easy to autofill stuff that's missing. Or all right, so let's see if we currently have stuff that we can talk about. And apparently, so as you can see, we also have our. If you look there at the top left corner, we have our persistent debug, and I think that's helpful. So we got the standing moving, and then we got the crouching moving, so we know the state that we're in. And currently we still, if we're under something, there's still no way of telling that we are under that certain something. So, you know, we still stand up. So let's take care of that. I'm gonna close out of the editor here, and let's go and start shooting that ray from our head, which sounds a little bit, you know, sci-fi-ish, but it's kind of fun. All right, so let's look into our ray shooting function. So the way I named this was, excuse me, was shoot ray from head. And so this went into player movement.h. And I'm just going to be, like I said, looking on my little cheat Visual Studio project here. And just because I don't know things by heart. So, all right. So this is going to be, we're going to make this let's make this a void, I think. I think that should be good enough. So this is going to be a void shoot ray from head. Alright, so once you create this, you'll get a little bit green squiggly mark underneath, and if you press on the light bulb, you can create the definition in playermovement.c++. Let's save these two, and let's see, where did that get placed? It's usually, it's fun, it's interesting because it gets placed right where you, usually right where you have it in your header file. So I'm assuming it's probably right above is on ground somewhere. And oh, I was in player animations. I'm sorry. Alright, so let's look for that. Get local move direction. And oh, actually, sorry, under get ground normal. So there you go. We have shoot ray from head. So what this will end up doing is updating a boolean, which will also set up in player movement, that actually just tells our state machine if the player can stand or not. So in order to do that, let's first set up that boolean right in here. So this is going to be a public, and we'll name this bool. Oh, no way. I've had this happen before, where Visual Studio is just being very finicky. So let's see, where were we looking at? We're looking into player movement.h, and we'll just move that right here. And I'm hoping that nothing got lost. Apparently things are still in there. We got the shoot ray from head. Okay, so let's set up that little boolean that returns if we can stand or not based on the shoot ray from head. So it's the shoot ray from head that's going to update that variable. Alright, so let's treat this as boolean, and this is going to be, and let's call this, what I've called this is m underscore can stand. Okay, so in order to return that, I've created a simple, just like these work, you know, the get ground normal is crouching is on ground, exactly like this one, that returns a boolean, and this is actually called can stand. And I'm now going to call this constant. I'm not sure if that's serves anything right now. And we're just going to return this am underscore can stand variable. Okay, so let's write up our shoot ray from head function here. So let's look at this here real quick. So the way my feeble, simple understanding of shooting a ray works is we have to set up a few options for that. So we got to set up where to start shooting the ray from, a direction, and the object types that it can collide with. There's another parameter called flags, which um, it's I guess if it's pierceable or if it's colliding with anything. There's going to be our ray hit, and then I think there's just a boolean or an integer, which apparently every time I've used ray hits, I just set it to 1, and that's unfortunately I can't really explain much of that, why that is 1. So let's first set up where the ray is being shot from. So I'm going to start off with a vec3, and this I'm going to call this position and set this to 0. And it's pretty cool because it's already setting all the you know, x, y, and z to 0 within that vector. So we want to look for a few options. So if we are crouching, we want to shoot it from one position because, you know, we're lower to the ground, so we don't want to shoot it from the same position as when we're standing. And if we are standing, again, we want to shoot it from a different position. Let's start typing these in. So for now, I'm not going to use the state for crouching, but I will use our is crouching Boolean return because we haven't changed much where it comes to this. Later on, we'll refactor it and we'll actually use the states, and we can all remove this altogether. So for today, we'll just use if is crouching, and we'll set the position to our entity position, right? So get entity, get position, there it is. And we'll just add to that vec3 of where we want the rate to start to start shooting from. So this is going to be a vec3. So I've offset this just a little bit from the center because I was running into some issues with the ray actually shooting and colliding with the collision proxy of the player. So I don't want that. I wanted to shoot it right next to it. So let's do, I've offset it a little bit, so, you know, a little bit to the side, a little bit in forwards, and the way I've set it is 1.5 f above the player's position. So that is if it's crouching. If it isn't crouching, we want this position to be I've set this to 2.0 f, so 2 meters above the player's position. That way it's above our collision proxy and it does not collide with it. That's, like I said, that was one of the issues I was running into. Okay, so let's go in and do our ray hits. So it's going to be ray underscore hit. And, you know, once you get doing this, it's actually really cool. It's pretty nice because this is also something that you can use, you know, to interact with items and see what type of items you're looking at and stuff like that. Okay, so let's set up. Let's see, what else do we need here? We want the direction, so let's do another vec3 direction. Oops, and this is equals to, let's create another vector, vec3, and we want to shoot this straight up, so it's going to be 0 f 0 f, and then let's do a 1 1 0 f. Alright, so for float. So we have this, then we have another parameter that needs to be passed to our array hit, or ray. It's called Realworld intersection. And the other parameter is going to be the object types. So this is going to be int object types, which is going to be this is I think it's actually an enum, and we can call this all entity all, I believe. So that includes static, rigid, and terrain. So usually our the things that you're going to be crawling under are 99.9% going to be a just a rigid type, or probably a static type, be that it's a brush, and I would suggest using brushes, right? So unless you have a lot of combat, and that probably a you know, maybe something of a living type object. I haven't tried that yet, so I've only dealt with just your regular crouching under something that, you know, it's right in front of you. So that's our object type. Then let's do these flags. You know, if it's in my case is going to be pierceable and collision any. I haven't worked with any of the other ones. There's quite a few examples of ray hit code out there. So this is going to be a constant unsigned int, and this was named flags, and equals to, and this is going to be part of these spelling things they have to be careful with. So we have RWI, it's going to be stop at pierceable, and there's going to be RWI again, collision type any. Alright, so we have our flags, and now we can actually start shooting the rays. So get environment, there we go, and we need arrow, p physical world, and this is going to be Realworld intersection. And here we're going to start on passing all of these parameters. And we're going to start off with, it's going to be the position. Then we're going to pass the direction. And then we want to pass our object types. So OBJ types. I guess I could have done it types, because maybe you'll add some more object types, and then our flags, and then right all the way at the end there's the hit, actually the ray hit. Okay, yes, it's cluttered, I know. And let's see, what's our last parameter? The thing that so this is int max hits. So I'm guessing maybe one hit. I guess that's what it is about. Okay, so we have our ray hit going out into the world. So our if statement, where we actually set the can or cannot stand, is going to be our array hit, which is hit, and we can access its properties to distance. And so if the distance is less than, the way I've actually this one, so the way I've found this to be working for me is I've set this to 1.0, so for 1 meters, and it's greater than 0. Then we want to set the am_canstand, set that to false. So if it's within 1 meter, the distance from our head to whatever it is, then I set it to that you can't stand. So else we set the am_canstand to true. So again, this is in my case. You can probably want these maybe to be different, these values, but hopefully as a proof of concept, I'm helping you guys out, or it helps you guys out. Alright, so the other thing that I wanted to do is, because I also kind of like it, is shooting array, or not shooting array, but actually showing where the array hits. So let's set up another persistent debug. So I persistent debug, and this is going to be a pointer. I'm just going to call it again just ppd, p persistent debug equals, so global environment arrow p game framework and get arrow, and it's going to be get I persistent debug. Okay. So one thing that I forgot to do in the other persistent debug is actually making sure that this pointer got properly initialized. So if p persistent debug, so what we want to do is we want to do a couple of things for this persistent debug. At least that's what I did. Is actually place a little sphere where the intersection happens, and output a little message that the player can or can't stand. So let's go ahead and add that in. So p persistent debug, just like I spelled it. Excuse me. So again, just to begin, and this is going to be, I'm just going to keep it interaction vector. Vector. Alright. And false, just like I've done previously. And first of all, we want to add a sphere, the little sphere at our intersection. So we're going to do add, p add sphere. So let's see, what do we need for this? So we need the hit position, because that's where, you know, we want the sphere to show. So it's going to be hit dot, and I believe this is PT. It's a vector 3, so that fits the bill. And let's see, what else do we need here? This is going to be the radius of it. So I'll make it pretty small, just by 10 centimeters. Actually 20 or 10 centimeters in radius. Then we need the color of it. So the color is going to be, again, just as a kind of a practice, color F. And we want a vec3. And this is going to be, let's make this one red, just for the fun of it. And then we want the alpha for it, so it's going to be, let's do 0.5 f. Forgot the comma here. Okay. And then what's next? We want the timeout, and the timeout is going to be, let's see, I think if I set this to 0, it's going to keep showing it permanently. So let's do 0.0f. Hopefully that works as I expected. So we got the sphere, and let's add the text. So this is going to be based on if it can stand or not. So if, and this is going to be, let's see, we can do it. See, for example, this little Boolean function, it could be useful. Maybe it's not, because this is a public. If you were to make this private, then yeah, you probably need this. But since just since this is public, you can also access it via the variable. So now let's do it as I'll just use the Canstand function. So if this returns true, then it means it can't stand, and we're going to add this little text saying can't stand. So for that, let's just go into player input, and I'm gonna copy some of this here, just so that it's makes it all simpler. So let's just paste this in here, and we'll also move this position down. So let's do, this is going to be maybe 30, and this is going to be can stand, and we'll copy this again, and if else, maybe not able to stand. Okay. Um, so I think that should be pretty good as far as the shoot rate from head, and for it to tell us that yeah, the player can or the player can't stand. But we need to use that in our state machine. So let's go back to player input, and as I was mentioning before, in this crouch press needs to has, in my case, you know, the way I made it work is by accompanying it with this shoot rate from head. Um, I know I haven't done it in a very optimized way, at least not currently, but because I'm shooting this ray from head every frame, so it could be probably made better if we just shoot it once we press the C key. So I haven't gotten to that point yet. So for now, we'll just shoot it constantly, and in one of the future streams, I'm going to be trying to make that a little bit more optimized, so it's not being shot every time you're standing. Or so let's see. But on the other hand, I think it might be useful because what if you were to walk around, you know, in kind of a lower ceiling setup, and you want to jump? Well, you don't want to jump. In that case, actually, I think the physics might take care of it. To be honest with you, so um, so yeah, I think you should be all set with that. But at least for the crouching, and for the today's purpose, I'm gonna shoot it every frame. So let's grab that and call it. So what do we call this? P player, and we're gonna access it through the M movement component right there, and we're gonna call it shoot rate from head. So what this is gonna do is gonna set our value. Oh, okay. So thank you, Oscar. Oscar mentioned that the raycast is not so expensive, so it shouldn't be a problem at all, and that should be we should be good to go. I haven't seen any drop in performance, so um, and also one of the things that he mentioned is to use the raycast only once every zero point 0.1 seconds, for example. Thank you, Oscar, for that suggestion. Because and that's true. You don't want to shoot it every frame, but you know, if you shoot it, you know, once every you know 100 milliseconds, that should be good. Okay, so let's look into this and see what actually happens when we call this up. And so I'm not gonna go into adding it here just yet. We'll just see what actually happens. So let's build this real quick. And let's jump into the engine. Alright, so let's take a quick peek. So as you can see, that little thing it says can stand. We still can stand. And let's go under this thing here and see if that thing changes. And apparently it doesn't. And let me just move this up a little bit and see if we're actually getting that little debug ray being shot up. And there we go. So I guess I was placing that thing a little bit too low. This is also part of your design decisions. For example, right now, you can't go under that thing. And if you press C, you'll see that little text says not able to stand because you're under the thing. Once you're outside of it, it says, you can stand, yay, and not able to stand, no, and can stand. So based on that, we can oh yeah, there we go. So this is another thing that Oscar mentioned. Thank you so much, Oscar. Is if the shorter the ray, the less expensive it is. So if you shoot like probably for a machine gun, if you keep shooting something, that would be pretty expensive. But um, that our little ray that goes a couple of meters, hopefully it shouldn't be that expensive. Yeah, so he mentions that you could even launch 25 or 50 rays to check collisions. And I'm sorry, guys. I really need to get one of those little plugins for Twitch, I believe, is what they are, that would show you the little pop-up message right here. I haven't looked into it too much, but it's definitely on one of my to-do lists. All right, so let's add our can stand check to these if statements. So let's look at, let's see, what do we want to go with first? Let's look at standing, right? So I know it's kind of backwards, but if we're checking to see if the player can stand. So if the crouch press is false, and let's see, our can stand returns true, or actually yeah, so our can stand returns true. So if m underscore p player m underscore p movement and can stand, if that's true, then we'll physicalize it. So I'm just going to do a quick copy and paste from here. And so standing, then in standing to moving, we don't really care, because like I said, that's pretty much our default state most of the times. Let's look into let's look at crouching moving. So crouching moving, this is actually pretty similar, because if the M crouch press is false, so we're not holding down our button, and whoa, come on. So let's copy this again and paste it right in here. Okay, so if crouch press is false and the player can stand, then we'll physicalize it as well. And then once we go into crouching, if crouch press is true and the player can't stand, so that means that he's under something, then we'll physicalize crouch. And let's see, what else do we need? I think I might be missing something. So let's see. So if the crouch press is true and player cannot stand, then there's that. For crouching, then moving crouching is if crouch press is true and the player can stand, then we'll physicalize the standing. And then in standing, if crouch press is false and the player can stand, then we physicalize. All right, let's give that a try. We'll compile and see what we get in the engine. All right, one build succeeded. That's good. So let's go jump into the engine. Let's load our test level and see what we get. Alright, so we can currently stand, and there's a little thing there. I guess I needed to specify some state prior to moving, because as you've seen when I first jump into game mode, um, and on the engine load, it was not applying the proper animation. Okay, so we're kind of colliding with this right now. So let's go into crouch mode and go under this, and it says not able to stand. So right now, if I remove it, I guess it says it can't stand. Why is that? Let's take a look at physics and see what we're getting. So it's colliding with that. It's going under the box. I think it's under the box. I think I need to make that box a little bigger, because or maybe bring it down a little bit. So first of all, let's make this a little bigger first. Just like that. So again, as I was mentioning, some of it is also the level design that you're doing. So let's see. One thing that I need to do is actually what was I gonna say? I forgot. So there's something, because it still goes into the ground. There's something missing in our state machine. And I'm wondering if it's... Well, no, definitely I'll need to physicalize the camera as well, because it goes through the object. And exactly, that's the one thing that I wanted to mention, Oscar. This is something that I need to do, is once you go into crouch mode, you don't want the camera to go through objects, especially if you're on a third person type game. Okay, so let's see, what are we missing here? Da, da, da. Crouching to moving, standing to moving. Da, da. What are we missing? So standing. Standing is crouch is false. Can't stand. And that looks good. I was just checking something against my little side project here. Crouching, moving. Then crouching. That is very weird. I'm not entirely sure what I'm missing here. Um, yeah, so as you can see, this is what I was talking about when it comes to that. So standing, moving. And it's saying properly that it can't stand. But it's still stood up. And one thing that I don't see, and I'm not sure if it's also probably a positioning of the camera, but let me try something. I wanted to see if, because that little sphere is not showing up, so as you can see, it should add a little bit of a, it should add a small sphere right at the top of the head, and also this is well within the distance of where the player could stand, and I guess this is part of where you need to do a little bit of testing as to how high these obstacles should be. Yeah, Oscar, that's I looked at that, and they seem okay. I mean, I have them just like I have them in my test project. Um, but the thing I don't really um, I'm missing is um, yeah, I mean that could be it. Um, I'm wondering if because I was using this is crouching, so I'm wondering if this is actually being set properly. Um, hmm. So let me do this. Let me make this distance a little smaller. I'll make it maybe half a meter, so 0.5 f. All right. Let me close the engine. Yep. Save the level and build. And also one of the other things I wanted to look at is in player input. What's a player input or player movement? I'm trying to look for the is crouching where we are setting that. Dun, dun, dun. Standing crouching, that's good. Bear with me for just a minute here. Let's look into player movement real quick. There we go. So this might might be missing something, right? So we don't do anything when we're into crouch position. You know, a few other things. Well, actually, no, we are setting that to true, which I'm wondering why. So that's being set. But then we're missing something. And what is that? Let's see, player movement. So one thing that I also have in the post INIT that I don't have in here, and I'm assuming it could be causing some of the issues, at least in the beginning with the animations, is let's set this to M is crouching set this to false, and am underscore canstand, set this to true when you first go into the game. So let's build and see if this helps. Alright, so let's go to our stream. Well, I'm thinking the same thing, Oscar. Maybe the distance is not properly adjusted. So let's see. Still kind of awkward, acting weird there. So right now it says it can't stand. Now it says it's not able to stand, even though, you know, there's no collision for the. But it just stood up, which is not what I was expecting. So like you're saying, I'm thinking it might be something I'm missing in the if statements. So here is okay. One thing that I don't know why I'm not seeing it, and let's take a look at that real quick, is our little collision debug sphere. And let's see, where is that? It's in shoot ray from head. Oh, and I'm thinking, because I made that to 0, so let's make that maybe 1. Thinking it might be that timeout. I was hoping that setting it to 0, it's gonna show it permanently, but maybe it doesn't. So let's try and see where things are colliding with stuff. Hopefully we'll be able to pinpoint this issue. Alright, so there's our sphere there, and we go into things, it still collides with stuff. And now as you can see, that's where it stops when it's so this is how it tells it that you know, it can't stand, and the output is, you know, proper as far as the as far as what this physical shoot ray from head is doing. But then once you release it, it goes through the box somehow, and like Oscar was mentioning, I'm definitely thinking he's right, and there's something weird happening on the player input file in our state machine here. So there's definitely something happening in here. So if let's see. Standing, false, and can't stand. Then we physicalize, else. And moving, crouching. If it's false, and he can stand, then we physicalize it. Then in crouching, if the press is true, Physicalize it. Oh, this is indeed a doozy. As to where am I when releasing the C key. Let me move these debug messages, you know, space them out a little bit. Like in standing. So if both conditions are false, yeah, sure, let's do these as well. I think you're right. That might be break. Okay. Yeah, exactly. You're right. You're right, Oscar. All right, so let's try and do a build and see if this helps with it. Hmm. There's something weird happening, definitely. Crouching, moving. So let's look into. So in here, I'm thinking um, there's something weird happening in here, because once we're in crouching, moving. So if that. So if we're crouching and we release the button and the player can't stand, then we should be able to physicalize it. Um, so then why? Let's quickly do also another small debug in our shoot rate from head, where we're testing if we can stand. Um, so Oscar is mentioning, so add a print message showing both conditions to be sure they are both false as expected. So let's look into player input and so let's do this as we're gonna change all these to be 1F and moving along somewhere. So this is gonna be, let's do start at 50, 60, or let's do 70, 90, and 110. We'll see what that Hopefully that helps a little bit with showing something. Okay, so standing moving, crouching moving, and it just goes into standing moving, even if it's under that. So I always keep wondering about if, like you were mentioning, one of the issues is this distance. This distance from the object that you go under. So there's definitely some issue happening with the if it's crouching, moving, and not able to stand. You should still be in that state. So in here, I'm wondering if I should do an else and say still physicalize standing and keep the state as it is, because this one should not be um, executing. You know, yeah, that seems like it could be an issue, but I'm not entirely sure why that would happen. Um, you know, into player input, we've also worked on this, and you know, if we set it to a value, yeah, it is kind of a strange issue why that happens, and I'm trying to think what might be causing it. Um, Let me first try and do something with this first. I know it's probably not gonna help any, but let's set a value for this in post-init, just so that you know, we set this thing to false. Um, well, so the rate, I mean, that could also be it. You know, I mean, I'm shooting it from 1.5f versus 2. Um, so I'm not sure why that would be an issue because we see the little distance and the debug statement as, you know, we see that properly as being able or not being able to stand. So see, like right here, um, it says not able to stand and crouching moving. So I'm not sure why that's being, you know, pushed in like that. So this is really an interesting thing that is happening right now. Yeah, I mean, it could be it also. Um, Oscar. Oscar is mentioning that crouching returns always, not able to stand, but standing returns always can't stand. Well, standing will return. Um, let me see if I can answer that. So standing. Oh, outside the boxes. Well, if I'm outside the boxes, then it's definitely going to tell you that it. So like if I'm out here, it says, you know, can stand, right? And it stands. But the problem is this thing where it says not able to stand and crouching moving is, like for example here, can stand just fine. But in crouching moving and under something, he it seems to not care about those conditions. So I'm not sure if I should just have so in crouching moving, um, you know, an else and saying physicalized crouch, like so. Not sure if that's gonna help, but we'll give that a try. Ah, come on, sometimes it freezes up like that. Yeah, it'd be interesting if this works. Um, oh yeah, It's actually funny because I think that if maybe messed up the states a little bit. As you can see, I'm holding down C for crouching, and it's not behaving it properly this time. So if I remove these, um, it was a little bit weird because in my case, when um, when I was doing it, I was actually removing the break statements. I'm not sure why that would have been working, but weirdly enough, it did. So I'll try that real quick, just for the heck of it. It might not do anything, but I know it's kind of weird, and I can't really explain it why it did work for me. But let me just do it in these two states, in crouching and standing. Um, so crouching and standing was the 2. We'll just try this out for just to see if we get any idea on this. So this seems to be working fine, and this is still behaving like that. This is starting to be a little bit of a mystery. So I'll tell you what, I'm not going to hold you guys any longer. Hopefully you got an idea of how these states work. I'm gonna try and see if I can figure out what was going wrong with it, and hopefully next week we'll continue on with this and move forward. Thank you so much for stopping by. Oscar, again, thank you so much for the suggestions. And you guys have a great week. Again, I hope this helped some folks out, and we'll pick it up next week. All right, everyone, take care.